"Put the tongs down, fat boy," I said. "Down." The officer's voice sliced through the laughter, hard and metallic. His hand cracked against the barbecue fork, sending it spinning across the grass. Laughter died mid-breath. Smoke from the grill curled up into the late afternoon sun, blending with the sour reek of authority. Another cop snickered and casually kicked over a tray of ribs. Bones and sauce scattered like shrapnel. "You people can't even eat lunch without breaking a law, huh?" he sneered, brushing imaginary ash off his spotless uniform. Every conversation froze. Kids clutched paper plates. Someone's music cut abruptly. A woman screamed, then clamped a hand over her own mouth. The big man at the grill didn't move. He just stood there, chest rising and falling, eyes steady, jaw locked. They thought they were embarrassing a nobody. They had no idea who they just cornered. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. And hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The sun beat down like a hammer on Jerome Hightower's backyard, turning the Georgia air into slow-moving syrup. Smoke from the grill drifted lazily over the fence. Jerome's big frame moved with surprising ease as he tended the ribs, flipping and basting with the reflexes of someone who'd spent a lifetime drilling movements into muscle memory. "There we go," Jerome said, pressing the spatula gently against a rack of ribs. "These are gonna make you forget your mama ever touched a kitchen." A wave of chuckles rolled from the picnic tables. Vanessa, his wife, was sliding stacks of paper plates and plastic cups into neat lines. "Don't let my mother hear you say that," she called back, arranging bowls of potato salad and coleslaw. "She'll drive down here just to prove you wrong." Her laugh lit up her face. She glanced over at their kids, 16-year-old Tobias, tall and lean, showing off crossover moves with a basketball to a cluster of younger boys, and 13-year-old Isla, cross-legged in the grass weaving clover chains with her friends. It was exactly the picture Jerome had held in his head on long nights overseas. Backyard. Laughter. The ordinary miracle of being home. Mrs. Johnson from next door came through the side gate, holding a still-warm peach cobbler like it was a newborn. "You better save room for dessert," she declared, setting it near Vanessa's spread. "Yes, ma'am," Jerome chuckled, wiping sweat from his brow. He patted his stomach. "Can't promise how much room I got left these days, though." "Stop that," Vanessa scolded fondly, walking over to kiss his cheek. "You're perfect." "Perfect's pushing it," he said, but his eyes crinkled. "Man, I do miss being able to run 5 miles and not break a sweat." "Yeah," Vanessa replied softly. "I remember you being gone for months at a time. I'll take you right here, slow and sweaty every day." A patrol car rolled slowly past the fence. The officer inside gave their gathering a long look. Jerome's hand paused mid-flip. His training did the rest. Car number, license plate, time of day, direction of travel, all snapshot and filed like it was second nature. Old instincts twitched, then he forced them down. "Not today. Today was for family." "Daddy, you're gonna burn the meat," Isla called sing-song from the grass. "Your daddy doesn't burn meat," Jerome protested, moving the ribs to a cooler spot. "That's what we call extra flavor developing." "Sure," Vanessa said, bumping him with her hip. "Just like that extra flavor you put on the chicken last month." Neighbors laughed. The tension from the slowing patrol car bled away. Mr. Washington raised a plastic cup from across the yard. "To the chef." A chorus replied, "To the chef." Warmth spread through Jerome that had nothing to do with the sun or the grill. Tobias jogged over, chest damp with sweat. "Those ready yet, Dad? I'm starving." 10 minutes, Jerome promised, brushing on his special sauce. "Good things come to those who wait." "That's not what you used to say." Tobias grinned. "Mom told me about you sneaking a finger of the wedding cake before they cut it." "Your mother," Jerome said with mock sternness, "needs to stop telling lies on me in front of my own children." The portable speaker hummed with soft soul music. Amber light stretched long shadows across the grass. Conversations blended into a low, happy hum. Jerome let his eyes wander over his slice of heaven, Vanessa's easy smile, the kids' carefree laughter, the neighbors' familiarity, his own home behind them. His body wasn't the same as it had been in his Navy SEAL days, but his heart had never been fuller. That was when the second cruiser arrived. Gravel crunched as the squad car pulled up to the curb, siren giving a single sharp chirp that cut through the music like a blade. 2 white officers climbed out, hands resting lightly on their gun belts. Jerome recognized them immediately. Sergeant Rick Danner. Officer Mason Holt. They were known in the neighborhood, but not in the way cops like to be known. Conversations stuttered and stopped. Someone turned the speaker off. The happy hum died, leaving only the faint sizzle of meat and the nervous rustle of shifting feet. Tobias drifted closer to his father. Isla abandoned her clover chain and sidled up to Vanessa, fingers curling into her mother's shirt. Jerome set the tongs down carefully and stepped away from the grill, walking with deliberate, unhurried strides to meet the officers at the gate. He positioned himself between them and his family without seeming to. "Afternoon, officers," he said evenly. "Something I can help you with?" Danner didn't bother lowering his voice. "We've had multiple noise complaints. Loud music. Disturbance of the peace." Confused looks flickered around the yard. Most of their neighbors, the only people close enough to even hear the music, were standing right there. Vanessa stepped forward with a plate of ribs, smile polite but guarded. "We're just having a family barbecue, officers. You're welcome to join us. Plenty of food." Danner's lip curled. With a sharp flick of his wrist, he smacked the plate out of her hand. Ribs and sauce hit the grass. "We're not here for your food, ma'am." Holt reached up and tapped his body cam. A small red light winked to life. His eyes didn't quite match Danner's swagger. There was a tremor in his hand as he took out a notepad. "Let me grab my ID," Jerome said calmly, moving slow, exaggerated, toward his back pocket. "This is my property. We've got permits for gatherings over 50 people." "Your property?" Danner's gaze swept the backyard, the groomed lawn, decent furniture, new grill. His mouth twisted. "And how exactly did you afford all this, boy?" The word landed like a slap. Someone gasped. Mrs. Johnson's hand flew to her mouth. Mr. Washington's jaw clenched. Jerome's face didn't change. "I own Hightower Auto over on Madison. Been running it 15 years. Here's my ID." He held out his license. Danner snatched it, squinting theatrically. "Jerome Hightower." He stretched the name out like it offended him. "And all these people?" "Friends. Family. Neighbors," Jerome answered. "Same barbecue we do every summer." Phones started appearing, quiet as breath. A lens here, a lens there, angled just enough to capture without drawing attention. The kids shifted toward the back fence, herded there by instinct and worried adults. "Officers," Jerome continued, voice still measured, "I understand you've got a job to do. But there's no violation here. I'd appreciate it if you'd leave my property so we can enjoy the afternoon." Danner stepped in close, getting into Jerome's space. Jerome was taller, broader, but the sergeant tried to loom anyway. "You telling me how to do my job?" "No, sir," Jerome said. "I'm making a lawful request." The shove came out of nowhere. Danner drove both hands into Jerome's chest, hard enough to knock him back a step, shoes scraping the dirt. "Dad!" Tobias started forward, eyes blazing. Jerome's arm shot out sideways like a stop sign. "Stay where you are," he ordered without looking back. He straightened slowly, shadow stretching over the grass. His jaw flexed once. His hand stayed visible and empty. Danner's palm settled openly on his holster. He smiled, a mean, anticipatory smile. Behind him, Holt had gone pale, but his camera kept rolling. Jerome's training screamed in his muscles. Move, disarm, neutralize. But this wasn't a battlefield. Not yet. His family was behind him. This yard was not going to become a grave if he could help it. He smoothed the front of his shirt like brushing off dust. "Something funny?" Jerome asked quietly when Holt let out a nervous chuckle. His eyes never left Danner's. "Shut your mouth," Danner snapped. "Nobody told you to talk." Vanessa stepped forward, hands trembling but voice steady. "This is out of line, Sergeant. We know our rights. You can't just..." "Can't what?" Danner rounded on her, face twisting. "Can't do my job?" Maybe you should teach your fat husband some manners instead of running your mouth. His hand came out of nowhere. The backhand cracked across Vanessa's face, loud as a gunshot. She stumbled sideways, crashing to the grass. For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Then everything happened at once. Children screaming, plates dropping, someone shouting for help, phones tumbling and being snatched back up. But in Jerome's mind, time stretched thin and slow. The man who'd spent years learning to move under fire took over. He stepped, not rushed, not wild, just precise. While Holt's fingers were still fumbling for his weapon, Jerome's hands found his wrist, digging into a nerve bundle with surgical accuracy. One twist and the officer's fingers spasmed. The gun clattered into the grass as Holt dropped to his knees, eyes wide with pain and shock. What the? Danner lunged with his baton already halfway out. Jerome was a step ahead. He pivoted, turned Danner's own momentum, and in one smooth motion had the sergeant's arm locked and torqued, dragging the bigger man up onto his toes. "That's enough," Jerome said, voice almost unnervingly calm. "Don't make me break it." The backyard erupted. Some screamed, others shouted encouragement. Every camera was up now. Two officers who'd arrived full of swagger were suddenly helpless in the grip of the man they'd called boy. "Dad!" Tobias's voice cracked between fear and awe. "Stay back," Jerome barked, eyes never leaving Danner. The sergeant's face flushed red, then purple, veins bulging in his neck as he tried to wrench free. Jerome's grip only tightened, controlled, practiced, designed to restrain, not destroy. "You're under arrest," Danner gasped. "No," Jerome replied softly. "I'm defending my family from assault. Everything's on camera. Every word, every hit." He increased the pressure a fraction, making Danner hiss. "How you think that's gonna look on the evening news? You slapping a woman at a family cookout?" Mrs. Johnson had pulled Vanessa upright. A vivid mark was already rising on her cheek, but fear had been replaced with fury. "I want badge numbers," she yelled. "Right now. This ends today." Sirens wailed in the distance, multiple tones at once. "More units incoming. Last chance," Jerome said to Danner. "We done." The sergeant made a strangled sound. Jerome released him with the same precision he'd used to grab him, stepping back, hands lifted. Backup cruisers screeched to a stop outside. Officers poured through the gate, guns drawn, yelling conflicting commands. "On the ground. Hands behind your head. Face down now." Jerome complied, lowering himself slowly, palms open, fingers spread. The cool grass pressed against his cheek. Boots thundered closer. "Don't hurt him." Vanessa's voice cut through the chaos. "He was protecting us. They hit me first." The knee still slammed between his shoulder blades. Cuffs bit his wrists. A hand shoved his face into the dirt until his forehead split against a rock. He didn't resist. Didn't speak. He'd lived through worse pain. But nothing had ever hurt like the sound of his children crying while they watched their father dragged away. Blue and red lights strobed across Jerome's own lawn as they shoved him into the back of the cruiser. Through the smudged glass, he saw Vanessa with her arms around Tobias and Isla, faces wet with tears and fury. Mrs. Johnson's voice rose over the crowd. "We saw everything. You attacked him. We got it all on video." Mrs. Briggs, 3 houses down, already had her phone held high, live streaming to anyone who would listen. Right here in Cedar Grove, her voice shook with anger. A man protecting his family just got arrested for it. "Let him go! Let him go!" The chant built, neighbors joining, even the ones who usually kept their heads down. Officer Holt, clutching his injured wrist, slammed the driver's door. Sergeant Danner, rubbing his throat, barked orders to push the growing crowd back. Jerome caught Vanessa's eyes through the glass. In that single look was a whole conversation. "Stay strong. Protect them. I'll handle this." The engine roared. The cruiser pulled away, protests chasing it until the turn at the end of the street cut them off. Hours later, night pressed against the windows of the high tower kitchen. Vanessa sat alone at the table, cheeks still throbbing where Danner had hit her. The house felt wrong without Jerome's presence filling it. On her phone, Mrs. Briggs's live video had passed 2 million views. Hashtag JusticeForJerome crawled up the trending list. The raw footage showed everything. The shove, the slap, Jerome's controlled, almost gentle takedown. Comments poured in. He protected his wife. This is what police brutality looks like. They attacked a family barbecue. Enough. But then the local news cut in. Ex-military man assaults officers during routine call. The headline banner screamed. Press conference footage rolled. A department spokesperson read from a prepared statement. During a response to multiple noise complaints in a quiet residential neighborhood, officers were violently attacked by Mr. Jerome Hightower, a former military serviceman. One officer required medical attention. Given Mr. Hightower's specialized training, he is considered extremely dangerous. Clips showed only Jerome pinning the officers. No slap, no shove, no insult. Screenshots of his arrest. His mugshot. They were rewriting reality in real time. Mom. Isla stood in the doorway in pajamas, looking suddenly smaller than 13. Why are they lying about Dad? Vanessa wiped her eyes quickly. Because sometimes, baby, people in power will do anything not to admit they were wrong. But we have videos. Everybody saw. I know, Vanessa said, pulling her close. They're trying to make your father into a monster so people won't listen to the truth. Tobias leaned in the doorway, anger simmering like heat off asphalt. They're turning him into the bad guy. A sharp knock rattled the front door. Voices floated through the glass. Mrs. Hightower, Channel 5 News, can we get your comment about your husband's violent outburst? Ma'am, is your husband mentally stable? Did his military service make him dangerous? Tobias started toward the door, fists balled, but Vanessa grabbed his arm. No. We do this smart, not angry. That's what your father would tell you. The knocking came again, louder, microphones scraping the glass. Vanessa backed them into the dark kitchen, phone buzzing nonstop in her hand as the false story spread. In the county jail, under buzzing fluorescent lights, Jerome sat on a concrete bench, wrists chafed and head bandaged. They denied him a call, given him one stale sandwich and warm water. The cell door clanged open. A woman in a captain's uniform stepped in, posture crisp, expression smooth. Mr. Hightower, she said, taking a seat. I'm Captain Brenda Ames. I'm here to talk about your situation. Jerome met her gaze without flinching. My situation is that your sergeant hit my wife and then arrested me for stopping him. She sighed as if disappointed. We've reviewed Officer Holt's body cam. Unfortunately, there were technical failures. Not much is usable. They deleted it, Jerome said flatly. But I'm here to help you, she continued. You have an impressive service record. It would be a shame to see it tarnished. If you plead guilty to assaulting an officer, we can recommend probation. Anger management classes. No prison time. You want me to lie, Jerome said, voice quiet. To say I started a fight I didn't start. I want you to think about your family, Ames replied, tone cooling. Your wife, your children, your business. A trial would drag them through mud you don't want them in. No deal. Her polite mask cracked. Then we will bury you. By the time we're done, no one will believe a word you say. You'll just be another angry black man who couldn't control himself. Get out of my cell, Jerome said. That night, his mugshot filled every screen in the country. They'd chosen the photo carefully, hard angle, shadowed eyes, expression caught mid-blink to look like a scowl. Aggressive ex-soldier attacks officers, the headlines read. Military training turned against law enforcement. Reporters repeated phrases like unstable, dangerous, trained killer. Jerome stared at the blank wall. They thought they understood him because they knew one chapter of his life. They didn't know what it meant to be forged by impossible odds. 2 days crawled by. At home, Vanessa tried to hold her family together. Reporters camped on the lawn. Anonymous cars idled at the corner. A dark sedan tailed them to school and back. At 9:47 one night, a brick shattered the front window. Isla screamed. Tobias hit the floor. Vanessa snatched up the brick, heart jackhammering, and unwrapped the note tied around it. Drop the case or lose everything. She had attorney David Reese, civil rights lawyer and church friend, on the phone before her hands stopped shaking. "Don't call the local police," he ordered. "I'll file emergency motions in the morning. I'm sending private security tonight. They're scared. That means we're getting close." At Jerome's bail hearing, Sergeant Danner took the stand in a clean uniform and lied so smoothly you'd think he believed it. "He became aggressive immediately," Danner said. "We feared for our safety. He attacked without warning." Without body cam footage, the judge treated his word as gospel. Bail denied. Jerome remained locked up. 3 days later, in Reese's cramped office, Vanessa sat wringing her hands as the lawyer burst through the door, tie loosened, eyes bright. "I think we just caught a break," he said. A data tech in the department, Eli Vargas, reached out. He says the dash cam footage from that day still exists. A cold spear of hope went through Vanessa. "The one they said was gone?" "2 angles," Reese said. "He's terrified. Wants to meet tonight. Says he can't live with himself if he stays quiet." That night, under a flickering streetlight in an abandoned Walmart parking lot, Reese and Vanessa met a young man in a wrinkled dress shirt shaking so hard he nearly dropped the USB drive. "If they find out I gave you this," he whispered. "Just go," Reese said. "We'll handle the rest." Back at his office, they plugged in the drive. The footage that filled the screen made Vanessa clap a hand over her mouth. Every second was clear. Officers walking through the gate already angry, Danner's shove, the slap, Jerome's controlled response. No missing pieces. No glitches. "It's all here," Reese breathed. Every lie they told undone. He made copies, then copies of those copies. Email backups. Offline drives. Once this truth was out, no one was ever erasing it again. In court the next morning, the judge watched the footage in taut silence. The gallery gasped at the shove, cried out at the slap, murmured as they saw Jerome's restraint. When it ended, the room felt different. "In light of this evidence," the judge said, face like carved stone, "Mr. Hightower is ordered released immediately. This matter is referred to the state for investigation into possible perjury and misconduct by officers Danner and Holt." Cheers exploded. Deputies hurried to unlock Jerome's cuffs. Vanessa broke past the rail and flung herself into his arms. "I knew it," she whispered into his chest. "I knew the truth would come out." By that evening, they were home, hugging the kids, eating cheap takeout on the floor because nobody felt like cooking. For the first time in days, laughter felt possible. They went to bed wrapped around each other, clinging to the sense that maybe, just maybe, the worst was over. Then, in the dark hours before dawn, Jerome woke to the taste of smoke. At first he thought it was a dream. Then he saw the tendrils of gray slipping under the bedroom door, heard the soft, hungry crackle. "Vanessa," he hissed, shaking her. "Wake up. Fire." He grabbed a shirt, pressed it to his face, yanked open the door. Heat slammed into him. Smoke rolled down the hallway. "Kids." Vanessa bolted for Isla's room as Jerome crashed into Tobias's. Both teenagers woke coughing and confused. The stairwell was a tunnel of choking gray. "Stay low," Jerome shouted. "Back door now." They crawled, half stumbled through their burning home, past walls already licked with orange. The living room couch where they'd just been sitting was now a torch. At the kitchen, Jerome reached for the back door. The metal handle scorched his palm through the towel. He turned it anyway. Cold night air slapped their faces as they burst into the yard, staggering. Jerome turned to usher them forward, and froze. The propane tank beside his beloved grill was already haloed in flame. "Run," he roared, shoving his family toward the fence. They barely made 10 steps before the world blew apart. The tank exploded with a deafening roar, shockwave knocking them flat. Heat rolled over their backs. Neighbors ran screaming from houses. Fire engines wailed in the distance. The Hightower home was a pillar of fire. Wrapped in donated blankets an hour later, Jerome watched investigators prowl the charred remains. The fire chief came over, eyes sliding sideways. "Looks like a gas leak," he said. "Old places like this, lines go bad. I'm sorry." When he left, Jerome stepped carefully into what had been his living room. Amid the soaked ash and twisted metal, his eyes found what he was looking for: jagged glass, the unmistakable chemical tang of accelerant. A Molotov, he murmured. Reese, standing beside him, clenched his jaw. They tried to kill you. All of you. Vanessa joined them, soot smeared across her face, eyes burning not with fear now, but something steely. We're not leaving, she said. This is our street. Our people. They don't get to scare us off. The sun rose over the blackened skeleton of their home, turning smoke into gold. Neighbors had already started a fundraiser. Others offered spare rooms, clothes, hot meals. Jerome stood in the ruins with nothing left to lose. They want to fight, he said quietly. They're gonna get one. The next morning, in the driveway of Reese's guest house, Jerome lifted the spare tire out of his trunk and opened the hidden compartment beneath. A small, heavy metal case sat waiting. He clicked the biometric lock. It opened with a soft hiss. Inside lay pieces of a different life: a worn Navy SEAL trident, an oiled cloth bundle containing a combat knife, encrypted comms gear, old mission photos. One showed a younger, leaner Jerome with his arm around another SEAL, Marcus Boyd. Dad. Tobias stood barefoot at the edge of the driveway, staring. What's all that? Jerome held up the photo. 16 years, he said quietly. Special operations. Things I never wanted you to have to understand. I left that behind for you. For this. He nodded back toward the smoldering memory of their house. But they brought the fight to my front door. To yours. You're going after them, Tobias said, voice half question, half fear. I'm going after the truth, Jerome corrected. He tapped Marcus's face. This man's one of the best in the world at getting into systems people think are locked down. We saved each other's lives more times than I can count. I'm calling him in. Isn't that illegal? Tobias asked. Hacking police computers? Jerome met his eyes. Son, I spent years going into places I wasn't supposed to be, to bring home things people needed to see. This is no different. Reese will keep it clean on paper. Marcus and I? We'll do what we do. Inside, Reese listened to the outline of the plan, then nodded once. I'll file official complaints, keep pressure on in daylight. You work in the dark. But remember, no matter how dirty they play, you stay cleaner. We need this rock solid in court. By late afternoon, Marcus arrived. He and Jerome embraced like brothers who had bled together. Could have called just to hang out, Marcus said, eyes scanning Jerome up and down. Had to do it because somebody tried to murder you? Nobody burns my family alive, Jerome answered. Come on. Let's work. They turned Reese's basement into a command center. Laptops, external drives, signal scramblers, maps of the county network. Marcus' fingers flew over keys, tunneling into the police servers. These firewalls. Marcus snorted. Man, I've broken into hostile nation-states with more security than this. Folders began to appear: body cam archives, internal affairs reports, financial logs. Look at this, Jerome muttered, opening the deleted directory. There was Holt's body cam footage from the barbecue, misfiled but very much alive. They found complaint after complaint that had been marked resolved, with no action. Patterns emerged: same officers, same neighborhoods, same kind of families. But. An audio file clicked open. Captain Ames's voice crackled from the speakers. Keep that neighborhood quiet, Danner. I don't care how you do it. These people need to learn their place. If anyone gives you trouble, handle it. The department will back you up. Another clip, Ames and a union rep discussing how to lose body cam files. Reese came downstairs with fresh coffee and stopped dead at the wall of evidence. This isn't a bad apple, he said hoarsely. This is the whole tree rotten. Marcus began setting up timed uploads, routed through servers across 3 continents. In 48 hours, he said, these files hit everything: national news, social platforms, watchdog sites. All at once. They can't stomp it out fast enough. 48 hours, Jerome agreed. Let them sleep a little before their world catches fire. By dawn, the last encrypted packets were scheduled. Marcus wiped their tracks. The basement went from war room back to storage space with a few unplugged monitors. Upstairs, the kids were getting ready for school, unaware of the digital bomb ticking toward detonation. That night, rain hammered the windows of Reese's guest house, wind rattling the frames. Jerome sat in the living room, cleaning his knife, while Vanessa helped Isla with homework and Tobias scrolled through messages of support. Marcus monitored police radio channels with one earbud in, jotting frequencies on a pad. Jerome's phone buzzed. Unknown number. 5 words glowed on the screen. "We know where you are." "Marcus?" Jerome said quietly. "We've got company coming." Headlights swung across the front windows, far too bright, stopping too precisely. Car doors thudded. Heavy footsteps splashed through puddles. "Basement now," Jerome ordered Vanessa. "Take the kids. Lock the door." She didn't argue. In 10 seconds, they were gone. Marcus killed the lights. The house plunged into shadow, lit only by occasional lightning. Through sheets of rain, Jerome counted 4 figures approaching. Even silhouetted, he knew the bulk of Danner, the nervous twitch of Holt. 2 more behind them. Front door shook under a boot. "Police!" Danner bellowed. "Open up!" Marcus raised his voice. "This is private property. I'm armed and authorized to defend myself." While attention was on the front, Jerome slipped out the back into the storm. Rain soaked him instantly, but it also masked his footfalls. He moved along the side of the house, sticking to shadows, the old dance of stealth returning as if it had never left. Holt was circling wide, alone. Bad tactic. Jerome waited for a thunderclap, then stepped out, drove a knife-hand strike into the nerve cluster at Holt's throat. The younger man dropped to his knees, gagging silently. Jerome yanked his cuffs from his belt and snapped them onto Holt's wrists behind his back, leaving him sputtering in the mud. The thunder rolled away. Inside, he heard wood splinter as the front door gave way. "You just made this worse for yourself, Hightower," Danner roared. One of the other officers tried to flank the back. Jerome caught him from behind, dragged him down into the wet grass, and had him zip-tied with his own restraints before the man understood what was happening. The last unknown officer spotted him, gun coming up. Jerome closed distance in 3 strides, knocked the barrel aside, twisted, and used the man's own momentum to send him sprawling. Another set of cuffs. Inside, furniture crashed. Marcus was making noise, drawing Danner deeper into the house. Jerome slipped back through the shattered kitchen door. Rain blew in behind him. In the flicker of lightning, he saw Danner in the living room, gun out, bellowing. "Where is he? Where's the hero?" Marcus stood in the doorway to the hall, hands up, talking slow. "You're on camera," he said. "FBI's already sniffing around your mess. You sure you want to add breaking and entering?" Danner didn't even glance back. Jerome moved. He hit Danner's knee from behind, then his wrist. The gun flew. The sergeant spun with surprising speed, fists swinging wild. They crashed through Reese's coffee table, glass exploding around them. Danner was strong, but it was bar fight strength. No discipline, all rage. Jerome rode it, deflecting, absorbing, redirecting. 2 precise strikes, a solar plexus shot to steal breath, a nerve punch to freeze an arm, began to dismantle the bigger man's advantage. They slammed out through the front door onto the wet grass. Rain turned everything slick. Danner slipped, hit his back. Jerome scooped up the fallen gun in one smooth motion and leveled it at the sergeant's head. "This is for my family," Jerome growled, finger tightening. Sirens wailed in the distance, but these were different. Higher, sharper. Federal. FBI SUVs barreled into view, skidding to a halt, doors flying open. "Drop the weapon," agents shouted, guns trained. Jerome held Danner's terrified gaze for a beat longer. The man who had strutted into his yard now lay shivering in the mud under a gun he'd meant to use on someone else. Jerome slowly lowered the pistol, let it drop into the grass, and raised his hands. Agents swarmed. They cuffed Danner and the others. Holt, still on his knees in the mud, started babbling. "It was Ames," he blurted. "She gave the orders. She told us which houses to hit." Special Agent Sarah Torres approached Jerome on the porch later, tablet in hand, rain dripping from her jacket. "Mr. Hightower," she said, "your data leak hit every major outlet about 3 hours ago. Bodycam files. Internal memos. Audio of Captain Ames ordering illegal operations. This bad. For them." She turned the screen. Headlines rolled past. Massive corruption uncovered. Captain ordered examples made of minority families. Deleted body cam footage recovered. Reese stumbled out of the house, tie askew, hair wild, grinning. "They just called from the U.S. Attorney's office," he said. "All charges against you dropped. Formal apology incoming. And that civil suit? We're talking 7-8 figures, easy." Vanessa stepped into Jerome's arms, laughing and crying at the same time. "You did it," she said into his chest. "We did it," he corrected. "All of us." Eli coming forward. "Marcus. Reese. Mrs. Briggs. Our neighbors. None of this works without all of them." On live TV downtown, cameras caught FBI agents leading Captain Ames out of headquarters in handcuffs. The woman who had smirked in his cell now thrashed against her captors, shouting about witch hunts and ungrateful communities. In the weeks that followed, more revelations came in waves. Hundreds of buried complaints. Evidence planted. Houses raided without warrants. Danner and Holt both cut plea deals, but not before a jury heard exactly what they had done in Jerome's backyard. In the civil trial, the verdict came quickly. In the matter of Hightower versus the city, the clerk read, "The jury finds in favor of the plaintiff. Damages awarded in the amount of $12 million. Outside the courthouse, the steps were packed. Signs waved, "Justice for Hightower." End police terror. Silence is not peace. Reese spoke first, voice hoarse but triumphant. "Justice is not a favor," he told the crowd. "It's a right. The Hightower family demanded it, and today, the system finally listened." Then it was Jerome's turn. He stepped to the mic in a navy suit that fit a little looser now. Months of stress and training had carved some of the softness from his frame, revealing the soldier beneath. "For a long time," he said, voice steady, "I thought the best thing I could do after the military was be quiet. Just be a neighbor, a husband, a dad. Some people saw that silence and thought it meant weakness." He let that sit, eyes sweeping over faces, neighbors, strangers, veterans, families clutching their own homemade signs. "They came to my home looking for an easy target," he went on. "A big black man with a belly, a barbecue, and a family. They didn't ask what it took for me to buy that home. They didn't wonder who I was before I opened an auto shop. They didn't care why I stayed so calm when they shoved me." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "This was never just about me," Jerome said. "It's about every kid who's learned to flinch when a patrol car slows down. Every mother who's told her son how to survive a traffic stop. Every father who's prayed his family never meets the wrong badge on the wrong day." He lifted his chin. "We proved one thing. A uniform doesn't put you above the law. A badge doesn't give you the right to terrorize your own community. And no amount of lies can bury the truth forever." Phones recorded. The speech spread online. Hashtags exploded again, but this time they carried something heavier than outrage. They carried hope. Months later, on a cool October afternoon, smoke once again curled above Jerome's backyard, but this time from a brand new grill beside a brand new house. The rebuilt Hightower home stood taller, stronger. Reinforced frame. New security. A high fence, not to hide behind, but to mark the line of what was theirs. Kids chased each other across thick green grass. Neighbors filled folding chairs. Mrs. Briggs held up a pan of peach cobbler. 12 million views, she boasted about her original live stream. And every one of them saw them boys get what they deserved. Tobias hovered by the grill. "Come on, Dad," he said. "You promised you'd let me handle the ribs this time." "I've been studying." "Studying?" Jerome laughed. "Boy, I was feeding platoons before YouTube was a thing." 20 years of burning meat, Vanessa teased, setting down a bowl of coleslaw. "I heard that," Jerome said, but his smile was easy as he pulled her in for a kiss, ignoring Tobias's exaggerated groan. Isla wove through the crowd with a pitcher of lemonade, refilling cups. She'd started a student justice club at school. She talked about policy now, about change. Pain had rooted itself into purpose. In a corner of the yard, Marcus and Reese argued amiably about football scores while kids toasted marshmallows over a fire pit. On the deck, a small news crew filmed B-roll from a distance for a feature on the department's reform program, built using training materials from a new consulting firm run by Jerome and Marcus. They called it Trident Integrity Solutions. Reese clinked a glass with a fork, drawing everyone's attention. "I think," he said, "our host should say a few words." Groans and cheers mixed. Jerome wiped his hands on a towel and stepped up onto the deck, looking out at the crowd that had stood beside his family through hell and back. "You know," he began, "there was a time I thought peace meant not making waves. Keep your head down, don't cause trouble, and they'll leave you alone." He looked over at the spot where his old house had burned. "Turns out, silence doesn't keep you safe. Sometimes, silence just tells the wrong people you're an easy target." He lifted his cup. "Real peace comes from standing up," he said. "From telling the truth even when it's dangerous. From knowing who you are and refusing to let anyone else define it for you." Glasses raised across the yard. "To truth," Jerome called. "To family. And to never being silent again." "To never being silent," voices echoed back. The string lights overhead flicked on as the sun slid down, turning the backyard golden. Music floated softly. Laughter rose and fell like waves. The same yard that had once held sirens and screams now rang with something stronger. But later, as the sky turned purple and the first stars pricked through, Jerome sat by the fire pit with Vanessa at his side. Tobias and Isla chased fireflies, faces lit by tiny moving lights. "They're different," Vanessa said quietly. "We all are." Jerome watched smoke drift upward, carrying the smell of hickory and sauce. "They came to break a man," he murmured. "All they did was remind him who he still is."